Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. I thought in this one I could talk about the future of Spotify. Spotify is about to go public and to allow people to invest in the company. Since Spotify is basically a Swedish company, um, I thought it would be interesting to talk about. Plus, I'm interested in the stock market anyway, so I hope you guys found this one interesting. And before we begin, I just want to remind everybody that we are doing a monthly giveaway this month with Pausebox. If you'd like to be interested, just make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow me on my social media, and I will do a drawing again at the end of this month like I did last time. You just have to be in Sweden. That's the only real thing. If you'd like to just go ahead and try it out, if you're Swedish and you want to try it out, it's a great idea. It's a monthly snack service. You can get healthy snacks or you can go ahead and get licorice. Both options are great, and sometimes I open the one here. Feel free to go ahead and look at the link below and you'll see a rebate there. If you type in my name, Andrew, you get 50 crowns off your next order. So let's go into it. Spotify going public. What do I see in the future? It's very interesting when you compare, first of all, Spotify to Netflix, because Netflix's stock price is like over $300 at this point, and it's exploding. It's got an insane P ratio. I won't get into so much of maybe the business side of things, but there's a problem that Spotify has that like Netflix had that we were able to fix. Netflix problem was movie companies were making it hard for them to offer it, but Netflix solution was to create a lot of original content to the point where I think now I would pay for Netflix just for the original content alone, and I like that they're coming out with a lot more stuff. But with the music industry, what makes it difficult is all the licensing fees. So the problem is Spotify is doing well, but they're not turning in much of a profit because they got to pay so many of the artists, and it's hard to make music profitable. I don't think anybody's really been able to do it. And the other challenge that Spotify has is that you got Google and Apple trying to get into the music game. That all being said, though, I like to invest in things, and I'm not, this isn't an investor YouTube channel, but I mean, what do I use? And personally, I've been using Spotify now for 4 or 5 years. And I look around and see what like young people are using. Again, keep in mind, I am in Sweden, so maybe that's kind of a biased place, but I see that young people are using Spotify. I'm using Spotify, and back home in the States, you do have Pandora, you have all these other options, but I would like to believe that Spotify is probably the most popular one, and I would think between young people, it's the most popular one. And I think it's hard to get young people to switch now when it comes to things. So I think people using Spotify are going to continue to keep using Spotify. The difficulty that Spotify has, though, is they can't just like make their own original music. Yeah, people can release that, but we'll have to see where that works. There's always going to be a place, I think, for music to be distributed. There is a big possibility that you could have Apple or Google that they are going to take this over. But what I like about Spotify, as far as their favor goes, is because Spotify, that's all they do is just makes music. That's their focus, and they're the best at it. Everybody else, like Apple, is making phones and doing service more than anyone else, and Google, it's the same. Like there's so many things Google's doing, they could throw a lot of money at it, but still, like Spotify, they are the top ones now. So I think that the more people that can start paying for music over time, I think that Spotify has a lot of active users, but maybe it only has, I don't know this, I could be wrong here. I don't know how many million of users are actually paying for the service. But let's say, for example, 8 million people are paying for the service, a monthly fee. They're not turning much of a profit. But if the future keeps trending, I mean, I think people are willing to pay a small monthly fee to pay for Spotify. If you could, let's say in 10 years, Spotify can bump to like 60, 70, 80 million. If we can get like up to 100 million people to pay for streaming service, I think it opens up a lot of things for artists to make a lot more money and for Spotify to turn out a lot more product. So I think it's getting people convinced to pay that monthly service. I think there is definitely a future in streaming music. I think it is the future. I think it's the most convenient way to listen to music. And 10, 15, 20 years now, it's just trying to get people to kind of pay for it. There are some people that like to listen to commercials or try different things, but I think it's kind of like the younger people now are listening to music. Either the older people are going to start switching to streaming services, or just over the next 10 years, you're going to see an increase in people willing to pay for it. So if I had an option to buy Spotify, I would buy it because I think that Spotify is going to be a much bigger company 10 years from now than it is now. I think there's threats out there like Google. I think there's threats out there like Apple, of course. And just the music industry in general just might not be as profitable. And I think there's a lot of things there I would be afraid with. If I had money to throw at Spotify, like I'm not going to invest in Spotify now, but if I had a lot more money to invest in Spotify and I was willing to take a chance, I would go for it. I would put Spotify at like a mid to kind of a risk of an investment for sure, just because of the future being like that. But again, I really like Spotify and I'd like to see Spotify succeed. I like the idea of paying a streaming service for music. I like the idea that it's no longer, especially people that came from my generation where I grew up with Napster. And although I'm not proud of Napster and that time frame, it allowed me to discover so much music. But I also didn't want to be someone that was stealing music, you know? And I think what's nice about Spotify is that Spotify gave so many people the chance to do what we believed in. Because people my age and stuff, it's like when we discovered... when Napster was around, it was just the idea of being able to have music digitally, to have it in your pocket, to download MP3s. That was amazing. That when you got that switch to Spotify now, any song everywhere you want, but you just have to pay a monthly fee. That's amazing as well, and it feels good. It's like because the brilliant thing about Spotify is because once I stopped buying CDs and all of us stopped buying CDs, Spotify allowed people that stopped buying CDs to start paying maybe it's $120 to $150 a year, or like up to 1,500 crowns a year, but that's for music, and that's way more than what people were paying. So that's very, very interesting. As far as music goes and like artists trying to make money, I just think that like, you know, it's changed. There's less money in music, but let's face it, there's less money in entertainment and there's less money. I mean, because look at TV, you got YouTube, you got Netflix, and you have video games now as well. And it's like, I have a YouTube channel, and this week, this month, I'm hoping to hit over 1,000 subscribers. But there's so much more stuff to watch that there are people that can draw in large audiences, of course. But there's also going to be tons of YouTubers, for example, that have smaller audiences that are able to survive. So I think there's going to be less money for like the big things like it used to be. Like the music industry has less. But once they can tap this new resource, it's going to be awesome. So that's kind of me just speaking off my head about this kind of stuff. Like I said, again, I get really interested in these kind of things and thinking this way. If you like this one, feel free to go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, would love to have you subscribe. My name is Andrew, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.